Hey, this is Different Careers with Kate Nudd. Again, today we are going over another continuing education course. Again, being a licensed massage therapist is my career for right now. I am currently out of work, so if you need a massage therapist and you're in the Rochester, New York area, please let me know. Contact me somehow, and I'd be happy to do an interview. So, this is probably just a joke, but I don't have any supernatural powers. So, that means I have to do manual massage only, and I can't read people's mind. So, if they don't tell me what they want to get out of the massage and know the difference between Swedish and deep tissue or hot stone and room temperature stone and stuff like that, then I can't give them the massage that they want, especially if they don't tell me or stick to a preference and pressure range. So you could do light to medium or medium to firm. I'm trying to possibly change careers at some point. So I kind of want to do more light, medium pressure. But if people are all over the place of I'm fairly consistent at keeping my pressure the same through the whole massage. So if all of a sudden someone's like, ow, ow, I have pain and I'm doing light pressure, then maybe they need super light pressure and they need someone super short, feather stroking only, or lymphatic drainage. So maybe more massage therapists should get lymphatic drainage certified. So I am interested in doing that training. The problem is it's 135 hours of continuing education credits, and you have to fly to Colorado to do the hands-on training. I don't know how long it takes. It sounds like it could take about 2 years. So if someone's willing to pay for that certification for me, I am willing to get trained in lymphatic drainage, but it's too expensive for me to handle it on my own. It was like $3,500 or something like that. And that doesn't include food and lodging while you're getting the hands-on training. So that's just a disclaimer. Out of work right now, need another job, or I'm fine going back to school, but I'm not sure where to go. I'm thinking computer science. So let's get into this. So what is this class supposed to be about? Headaches are one of the most common of all human experiences. Skilled manual therapy can often make a big difference in headaches, even a short time, but unskilled manual therapy may have minimal impact, or it could even make things worse. Join musculoskeletal and pathology experts Whitney Lowe and Ruth Werner to learn the anatomy of the head and neck, how headaches occur, the different types of headaches, and considerations for massage therapists. This course was featured during the 2024 APMCE Summit Headaches. Okay, let's go down. So Whitney Lowe directs the Academy of Clinical Massage, which provides advanced clinical massage, continued education, as well as programs for schools. His system of orthopedic massage is designed for massage therapists seeking to meet the needs of clients with chronic pain or sports, recreational or obstacle pain, injury conditions. Sorry, I have hiccups all of a sudden. He is the author of Orthopedic Assessment in Massage Therapy, and his articles appear regularly in the professional peer-reviewed journals, Massage and Bodywork magazine, and other industry publications. So you can go to academyclinicalmassage.com to find out more about him. And Ruth Werner is an award-winning educator, writer, retired massage therapist with a passionate interest in massage therapy research and the role of bodywork for people who struggle with health. Her groundbreaking textbook, A Massage Therapist's Guide to Pathology, is now in the 7th edition and published by Books of Discovery. Werner is the columnist of Massage and Bodywork magazine and Massage New Zealand. She teaches continuing education workshops all over the world and hosts the I Have a Client Who podcast and ruthwerner.com. And she did do pocket pathology. So we'll get into here. Let's see if you like this one better. Again, this is really just informative information like this one. Like they talked a lot. And we're at like the end. So let's go to the beginning. This is both of them, by the way, Ruth and Whitney.
Setup. And then I will follow that with a short review about what is understood about the pathophysiology of headaches. It's pretty basic, but I think between the two of us will offer a nice setup for the applications of body work, which is really what you all are here for.
Sounds great. So, well, why don't we jump in here to just take a look at some of the key anatomical mechanical structures in this area, and then we'll come back afterwards and see if maybe, Ruth, you'll have maybe a question or two after we come through with that, and then we'll jump in and see what everybody else has to say as well.
Such a thing could happen.
All right, let's take a look. All right, so we're going to start off looking at some of the key anatomical structures and some biomechanical considerations here in the craniocervical region, looking at head and neck involvement with headache pain. So let's jump over for a second and take a look at some key anatomical and mechanical characteristics in this region. The first thing we want to look at here is just the skeletal structure of the cranium resting on the top of the cervical vertebra. If you note, there's two small contact surfaces between the atlas and the occiput at this juncture between the head and the cervical region. And that means basically your roughly 12-pound head is sitting on top of a contact surface that's about the size of your fingertips. So think about just having that bouncing a 12-pound bowling ball on top of your fingertips is essentially what we're trying to do here with the head from a structural and mechanical position. That is particularly challenging, and what it does mean is that a lot of soft tissues are going to have to play a much more significant role in maintaining the stability there, and that's where we see a lot of the pain complaints occurring, is from overstresses on many of these soft tissues. Let's take a look at some other key aspects of anatomical structure here in the cranial region first. All right, so let's continue to look at some major structural issues here with the bones. We'll start at the really deep level, and then we'll work our way superficially here. So again, looking at the cranium, if we zero in on this a little bit, we can see the articular surfaces between that atlanto-occipital joint that we were talking about just a moment ago. In fact, let's just zero in on that. We'll just take the occiput off here for just a second. And we can go inside the cranium and look at those contact surfaces on the top of the atlas right here. And again, this is the only contact between the cranium and the cervical region. It's just these two flat surfaces on the top of the atlas here. So there's a lot of weight being distributed down onto those two structural contacts with the atlas. Now, in the cervical region, we can see there's an articulation between each of the adjacent cervical vertebrae. And we can see those right here. And those have joint capsules and other soft tissues that are spanning between those joints. So here's an example of the joint capsule in between two of these cervical facet joints. Now also deep inside we have other connective tissues that are helping to maintain stability between the craniocervical region, and any of these tissues may potentially be involved in headache pain, especially after certain types of head injuries, trauma like whiplash, or any of those kinds of things. All right, so while we're looking at some of these deeper structures, let's go ahead and dive into some of the nerve structures that are in this area. They play a big role in many of the headache pain complaints that people experience. Now, while we're deep in these structures, let's take a look at some of the other key things that might be playing a role in numerous headache complaints. In particular, many of the sensitive neurological structures in this area. For example, of course, going through the intervertebral canal here is the spinal cord, and we've got the nerve roots that are coming off the spinal cord, and it's relatively easy to have mechanical impairment of that spinal cord or those nerve roots that could be playing a major role in either neck complaints or headache complaints as well. Now here we've added a number of other nerve structures onto this region coming up into the additional layers of all of these neural structures that are on the outside of the neck here. But I want to call your attention deeply once again to this membrane that covers the spinal cord and all the way wrapped around the brain as well. And that is, of course, the dura mater. The dura mater is a very richly innervated tissue, highly sensitive, and it's very vulnerable in a number of locations around here that can play a major role in a number of headache complaints. Now we're going to be looking at a number of these other muscle structures here in a little bit, but before we do, I want to call your attention to something very interesting anatomically in this area as well. Here are the suboccipital muscles in this region, and we're going to, as I said, view those in just a moment. But I want to take them off for just a second to look deep to them. So we're going to pull this one off right here, and this is the one that we're really interested in. It is the rectus capitis posterior minor. And I want to pull that one off on this side only so we can take a deeper look in there. There is actually a fibrous connective tissue bridge or branch between the rectus capitis posterior minor and the dura mater that's covering the spinal cord. It's sometimes referred to as the myodural bridge. And so tightness or hypertonicity in some of these suboccipital muscles could in fact transfer some of that tension load to the dura mater, and they may be playing a part in a number of headache pain complaints as well. So that's a very good reason to be working some of these suboccipital muscles. And I said we'll come back to them here in just a moment. Okay, before we leave the cranial region and move down to the cervical region to look at a number of things there, there's one more point I want to bring across here, and that has to do with mechanics in this region that play a role in a number of headache complaints that people may experience. We noted earlier that the attachment site between the atlas and the occiput was just two very small contact surfaces, and there's a pretty strong group of ligaments and other connective tissues binding those two together to hold them in place so that the head stays in position. So a lot of the tilting movements of the head, for example, the forward, backward, up and down tilting, some of that significant movement may occur at that atlanto-occipital joint, but the majority of the rotational movement when you turn your head from side to side is not happening, even though it seems like it is, between the head and the first cervical vertebra. That majority of that movement is actually occurring between the first two cervical vertebrae, between the atlas and the axis. So keep that in mind. We want to look at some of the other connective tissues and muscles that are controlling motion at that movement. When somebody's got limited motion in their neck or their head, they can't turn their head and they've got significant headache pain as a result of that. You want to look at those muscles that are controlling rotational movements between the atlas and the axis, in addition to those work that you're going to be doing on all those tissues up in between the atlas and the occiput as well. All right, as we continue to look at the cervical region, we're now going to come up a few layers and look at some of the other connective tissues and muscle structures in this area. Before we leave that, I want to again make this point. Because of all of these sensitive structures in this area, you really can't talk about headache pain without also considering things that might be going on in the neck, because a lot of times many of these richly innervated tissues, the soft tissues in the neck that are maintaining stability or creating neck movements, can refer pain into the head. So, muscles that are in this area may have trigger points that are referring into the cranial region, and the mechanics of what's happening in the neck may be playing a significant role for what's happening in the cervical and cranial regions as well. So both of these things are very intimately connected, so we want to look at the structures in both these areas as we're addressing any type of headache complaints. And again, as we said earlier, joint displacements, irritations of nerve roots from discs protruding in this area, any other kind of spinal tumors or obstructions on any of those nerve roots, any of those things that impair any of the neurological structures in the cervical region should also be considered, because they can play a major role in headache pain that people may be experiencing. All right, now let's take a look at some of the muscles that are in this area, and boy, are there a bunch. And if you remember from your anatomy study, it's probably hard to memorize and remember all these different muscles in the cervical region. So a key point that I want to make here is that as you're looking at these things, just remember there's a lot of layers and a lot of different tissues that may be potentially involved with many of these headache complaints. So starting with our deepest ones, we've got some of these superficial structural paraspinal muscles that are here. Very deep. Let's zoom in on these a little bit, just running in between the spinous processes, in between the transverse processes here, and some of these very long, thin muscles running the whole length of the cervical region on up towards the cranium. And a number of these other muscles we'll see in just a moment have attachment sites all the way up on the base of the occiput. So clearly they can be involved with headache pain as well, because sometimes it's when these muscles pull on their attachment sites into the periosteum, which is that thin membrane covering all the bones. That periosteum is one of the most pain-sensitive tissues in the body, so Tensile pulling on the periosteum from muscle attachment sites can often play a prominent role in headache pain complaints. So let's look at some of these others, and let's take a moment here while we're at this level to look into those suboccipital muscles. We talked about them just a second ago, but let's zero in on them for just a second. We've got 4 of them on each side. Rectus capitis posterior minor right here, rectus capitis posterior major here, obliquus capitis inferior here, and obliquus capitis superior right here. 4 very small muscles with 4 of the biggest, most obnoxious names of any muscles in the body. Hard to remember these things, but they're really important for headache pain and pain complaints in the cervical region as well. So we've got these muscles that are in this area. We oftentimes want to work these muscles with some of these nice, wonderful, relaxing techniques that we do. A lot of times you'll do these techniques like, having a person drop their head off the back edge of the table. You place your fingertips up into the underside of the occiput there to work on those muscles and to work on some of the muscle tightness and hypertonicity that's in there, and that feels so wonderful. While we're talking about this, however, I do want to call your attention to another important factor addressing work in the suboccipital region when you work on these particular muscles, and that has to do with arterial structures. Let's strip these muscles off for just a second and look at that for a moment. Okay, we've taken our muscles and other connective tissues and nerves off for a second to look at the arterial structures in this area that play a prominent role in what can be going on with a number of headache pain complaints that you might be working with. Look for a moment, just the interesting anatomical arrangement here, that these arteries are actually going through these holes in the side of the transverse process. So this is the vertebral artery. This is the right side, so you've got one on each side. And you'll notice you have an intervertebral foramen, or excuse me, an intertransverse foramen here, where those arteries are coursing through the transverse processes and going on up to blend together as they go into the brain. Now, for a moment, if we put our person back here, and let's just look at this for a second, and we're going to take the occiput off here for a second so we can look in there, and we can see those 2 arteries coming together here. So now these are vertebral arteries at this point, and if we add another layer of arterial structures, we see they blend together and form the basilar artery, and this is a major blood supply up into the brain. Now, occlusion or blockages of blood flow into the basilar artery can play a significant part in a lot of headache pain complaints. So this is one of the things that we want to look at, making sure if there's anything that might be potentially contributing to blood flow blockages in there, that's something that could be playing a part. Let's put our cranium back on here for a second. Now, as we're working these areas, and let's get our suboccipital muscles back on here as well. We're working those suboccipital muscles. This is one of the things that I wanted to caution you about, is that if you're working on both sides at the same time, you could potentially compress those vertebral arteries because people have different anatomical variations. So one of the things that I want to look at here is that when you're working in these areas, especially in the suboccipital region, and let's say you're working those suboccipital muscles, you could be putting pressure up on both those both sides of the cervical region, the suboccipital area at the same time. You might potentially compress those vertebral arteries and impair blood flow to the brain. And this is
And this is where, as a licensed massage therapist, like, he's talking in a way that makes me feel like, oh, I need some kind of super power where I can feel, like, when I touch someone, exactly where their nerves or veins are, so I don't block the blood flow. I don't possess that ability. So when I massage the suboccipitals, like he showed, where you're putting your fingers at the base of the scalp, my intention is only to soften the muscles, to help get rid of the muscle tension. My intention is never to press on the actual nerves or the arteries or veins where your blood supply is. And in a previous video, I was like, if someone has a compromised immune system where they can't break down whatever's causing, blood blockages or whatever, like, that's probably the root issue of what's going on. They shouldn't be on the table at all. There's going to be other signs and symptoms that are making it so like, oh, you probably shouldn't get a massage. You should go see a medical doctor. So if you're having a hard time breathing, go see a medical doctor. Another suggestion is if you have severe headaches, go see a chiropractor because your spine could be out of alignment and it's causing compression on the nerves or the arteries or the veins, and because your spine's out of alignment in your neck. So make sure you get a chiropractor that's gonna like put your whole spine from your sacrum all the way up to your neck in alignment, and do full corrective spinal care, and then get a massage to help loosen up those tight muscles so it stays in alignment. And you probably would need like a gentle deep tissue massage where you have a massage therapist who's thoroughly working out all the knots along the spine and in the neck and in the suboccipitals, like up here, doing the full spine. And then if you get into holistic health, look online and look up naturopathic doctors. They tell you coffee's bad for you, caffeine's bad for you. It gives you a headache. So maybe the reason you have chronic headaches is because there's something in your diet that is causing the headache. So you need to take that thing out of your diet so the headaches will go completely away. Because in the past, I have tried drinking stuff that had green tea extract in it as an energy drink. And if I didn't have it one time in the afternoon, it gave me a headache. Got rid of the caffeine, got rid of the green tea extract, and my headaches completely went away. And they never came back. So what does that mean? It means I have to stay away from caffeine. But people love their coffee. People love their caffeine. Also, smoking. What does smoking do to you? Smoking cause you headaches if you don't smoke? So, like, what are you doing health-wise? What are you putting in your body? You need good nutrition. That means like whole grains. That means protein, nuts, legumes. You need, grains like wheat, the ancient grains, barley, rice. You need your fresh fruits and vegetables, leafy greens, broccoli, cauliflower, kale, spinach, different varieties of fruit. So what are you doing? People say you need to eat meat, but there was like the China study done where it's like if you ate the people in China that ate less meat, they were healthier and lived longer. So it's like, but people, mainstream doctors put it in your head, you're not going to survive without eating meat because meat gives you protein, but meat is from an animal. What do animals eat? They eat plants. A lot of them. So it's like, well, why wouldn't you just eat the plant instead of the animal? So, I don't know. What do you want to do for your health? Again, there's different perspectives on health. Mainstream media or mainstream doctors are like, you can do whatever you want to your body. You can eat whatever you want. You can put pharmaceuticals in. You can be on like 20 different kinds of pills. But mainstream doctors, they are more into treating the symptoms. They're not trying to get to the root issue of what's causing the problem. Then you have holistic health that's trying to get to the root issue. So they try to give you more like health tests and stuff like that. So do you want doctors that are gonna like try to get to the root issue of why you're sick? Or are you going to go to the mainstream doctors and be like, just treat my symptoms because I don't want to change my lifestyle at all. It's up to you what you want to do. So, Again, I'm just a licensed massage therapist throwing out a different perspective. Please go to a naturopathic doctor. Please see a mainstream doctor accordingly. See a chiropractor accordingly. Do what is best for your health. And if you actually go to a naturopathic doctor or a chiropractor and you see in a massage therapist and you see drastic difference and improvement of headaches going away or whatever, then that means that's what you need to do for your thing of how to get healthier. So again, just a licensed massage therapist. I have studied different avenues of health. I tend to like holistic health better, and that's the reason why I became a massage therapist in the first place. Not to study mainstream doctor stuff and pharmaceuticals, because they really haven't worked that much for me. But that's my personal experience. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it beneficial. A good luck with your health. I wish you the best of luck. I hope you figure out what's causing the root issue of your headache and you do what's necessary to get rid of it. Also, if the muscles are tight, also that means stretching different muscles in the neck, making sure you stay hydrated and drink enough water, because you can get like people have told me, I have a hormone headache. You can get dehydrated and not have enough water and get a headache. You could get a food hunger headache, because I've gotten that in the past, where I went maybe 8 hours without eating food and it caused a headache because my body was like, you need to eat. So there's different causes that cause the headaches. You have to figure out what is the root issue of the headache too. So hope this video helped you. Until the next time, if you have any massage related questions, feel free to put them in the comment section below. Feel free to like and subscribe to this channel. Until next time.